As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everybody. And Harry, good morning to you. Harry's our station manager, and WNHH 103.5 would not be as successful as it is and continues to be without people such as Harry really monitoring the ship. We have on the show today several ministers and Bernard Macklin as well to talk about a few things, but no ship of state remains afloat without people rowing, even when you're off air. So I just want to kind of publicly, again, Harry, kind of thank you for your commitment and really dealing with so many different personalities. WNHH is a global station and people listen from throughout the world, but also we have a variety of people that listen. We have people that support Trump. We have people that support Biden. We have people that don't want to vote. We have people that want to burn down everything. So to have a station that provides such a plethora of information, I really am glad to be a part of. And for a station manager to deal with all of these various host personalities, that's a true gift as well. So Harry, a shout out, a big time shout out to you. The show today is the general title that I've come up with is Public Health during African Genesis Month, Black to the Future Month, Black History Month, Negro History Month. So it's an homage to Carter G. Woodson, but it's also trying to locate ourselves in the fact that we are going through a public health war, and the enemies are ourselves. And so I'm really pleased that Bernard Macklin, the Fight the Flu New Haven coordinator, was able to kind of coordinate this coordinate this show with several members of the clergy, because I strongly believe that well, let me just be very personal. I need to hear for these next 55 or so minutes how religion and belief and faith kind of impacts our stability and our sanity, and hear from people that are dedicated to, when you use the term ministry, people that are dedicated to making this world a better place. So this is not I'm not trying to make a sermon or a speech or to kind of justify Reverend Ross Lee or Bishop Lawson or whoever else might be joining us on the call, but just to give them a chance also to share from their perspective. So good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, sir.
All right, Reverend Lee, are you there? Just want to check to make sure everybody is unmuted.
Yeah, it's actually Ross Lee, and yes, I'm here.
Yeah, Reverend Ross Lee, excuse me. That's really important because you're right. This is a small town and a small world, so there are people that there are a number of reverends around, but we have Reverend Samuel Ross Lee on the call, and I appreciate that. Gentlemen, let's kick it off. I don't have a particular script. Again, the theme is just, again, public health and how that kind of relates to your passion, your purpose, your ministry, your lifestyle, your commitment. And these shows are really, I'll shut up in a second, are really just are therapy sessions for me. I don't mind saying that. They are therapy sessions for me. And hopefully they're not therapy sessions for others, informative sessions, stimulating sessions, catalytic sessions. So Bishop Lawson, you were on the call one or two weeks ago, and maybe if you want to kick us off with some of your thoughts in this regard, and then Reverend Samuel Ross Lee will come around to you, and we'll have an open up discussion. We have a good 53 minutes, and let's commune. Let's do it. Bishop Lawson.
Oh, how you doing? Good morning, everybody, radio listeners, and all those that are on with us. Thank you so much for having me on. I always kind of delight to talk about faith, our faith community, when it relates to health for our communities. I grew up in North Carolina, a very religious setting. So, we believe in Oral Roberts' limb, putting our hands on the radio and now healing that way, and revival campaigns that brought healing and many deliverances, as we say, to different people's lives. And often it was not very friendly, of course, to the hospitals and medical society in this little town that I lived in Carolina. So growing up, I had a very complex view of into faith in hospitals and medical community, because we just not privileged to support. Even now, I just got my second vaccine yesterday, the corona vaccination, and it reminded me when I was young and we couldn't go to the hospital, so they lined all the Black kids up around the health center. We all got smallpox vaccination. Vaccinated that way. Now we can go to hospitals. But faith community, I think, again, growing up the way I did, my perspective is that we believe in faith healing, that we could believe God for anything, and that we didn't too much need doctors, and we could go to hospitals. Under Jim Crow laws, it prohibited us from a lot of access to the medical community. Of course, growing up now, I'm a chaplain over at Yale as a chaplain at the hospital, staff chaplain, and it really it was perplexing still in a way. But I do believe that we need to trust science. I think there is a correlation even in the Bible between science and religion, and we weren't always taught that, and we're that. And then as promoters of the gospel, we have to preach and teach the Great Commission. That's to give the truth to everybody. The truth meaning what is right, whether it's biblical, spiritual, scientific. We just have to preach truth, make sure that truth is disseminated to our people, especially those in our African American communities not so much trusting to the medical community. So we're still trying to instill trust. We're still trying to support faith and trust at the same time. So still, I think the conflict is there, but I think people now are trying to grasp, especially in the religious community, we're trying to grasp that we can have faith in science, and that even when we're going to this coronavirus, we have to trust science as well as God. So that's where I think the conflict is. What we're trying to promote is that you can do both. It's not and or, it's both.
Excellent. And we're certainly going to kind of chop it up and come back to you. Bishop Lawson, again, your church is the exact title.
Powerhouse Temple Ministries.
On Howard Avenue.
Yeah, no, we're now on Sperry Street.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Reverend Samuel Ross Lee, let's go to you for a little bit and kind of share. And I haven't seen you in person in a while, but again, the Zoom thing hopefully is somewhat of a substitute, but it really doesn't equate to the face-to-face. Reverend Samuel Ross Lee is the senior pastor of the historic Emmanuel Baptist Church here in New Haven. Reverend Samuel Ross Lee, please share a little bit.
Now, I didn't hear what you said we were talking about. I know what he talked about. I understand what he talked about, okay, but I'm not sure what you said. So could you repeat that? Oh
yeah, for sure. And it gives me a chance to see if I can remember what I just said, and if I'm really feeling it, and
it doesn't have to be verbatim.
I might say something different. And again, even hilarity. How can we kind of have some faith and hope and fun given this crisis and this pandemic, but also in the context of what I'm calling African Genesis Month, and also Black to the Future Month, and kind of an homage to Carter G. Woodson. But how does public health relate to our liberation theology? How does public health relate to the role of the church and the clergy, and just keeping us motivated and committed to knowing that we can make it, not necessarily only in the by and by, but to make it right now. And so it's like kind of trying to weave in public health to / theology and being healthy here, so that wherever we go after this life, we still can kind of present ourselves in a healthy fashion.
Okay. Whenever I go to the hospital, to see members who are there, I make a point to pray for the doctors and nurses, mm-hmm, whom I refer to as God's servants. So often our concept of servants or even ministers, and the term just means to serve, right, is limited to people who are in the church house, or people that we see at the church house, quite frankly. So if we don't see them, they're not servants of God, right? So I make a point in that prayer for comfort and healing and strength and rest, you know, and taking time to heal, you know, for the person who's there. I want to pray for the doctors and nurses, who I say are God's servants. I do not think there is a difference. I don't really think there's an either or in terms of our faith and health and of things. I think we have so many examples, right, of Jesus, you know, going through and concerned with people's health in various ways. The physical health, of course, and there's the death. I don't know if you're healthy if you're dead, but he brings them back, right? Even with you know, mental health, spiritual health. I would say that the lepers were not just physically unhealthy, but they were mentally and emotionally unhealthy, as they had been excised from the community in which they lived. That has some effect on your psyche, has to have some effect on your emotions. When you're at your lowest, I mean, they had leprosy, of course, you know, there was no cure. And instead of you being comforted by your community, you're being, you know, excised from your community, or exiled from your community, as it were. So I think that is a natural part. We closed in-person worship March 15th. Is the first Sunday that we did not do in-person worship doing this. I wrote an article for the Independent. It was translated into Spanish for Hispanic community, and in it I said, I don't think there is the Bible is in competition science. There are a lot of things that come from our tradition that were necessary in its time. And one of the problems that we have oftentimes in church and in religious settings is that we don't have a historical perspective to understand that certain things are adequate and competent and relevant to a specific time. Okay. And when that time, as things change over time, that particular thing may not be relevant anymore. Some of these preachers may have heard the story of the woman who, if you haven't, then you can use this. The first time you should quote me. The second time you say,
all right, I'll send you the royalties also.
You know, whatever. But the story of a woman who cut the legs off the turkey before she put it in the pan.
Yes.
Served this one. And someone asked her why. Well, my mother always did it. Asked the mother, her mother always did it. Asked the grandmother, I never had a pan big enough to hold the whole turkey. So she had a reality that made what she was doing necessary. The other people were just, you know, following. I remember Joe Roberts, the late Joe Roberts, who was the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta before my Morehouse brother Warnock. He used to say that there's a difference between tradition and traditionalism. Tradition is the living faith of dead people, and traditionalism is the dead faith of living people. And so often what we think is tradition is actually traditionalism. So back in the day, before we could go to doctors, before we could go to hospitals, before we were allowed to admit, all we had was prayer. All we had was an itinerant preacher riding around and going to houses and praying for people, and people putting witch hazel on their knees and stuff. That does absolutely nothing. It's a placebo at best. And so that's what we did. And one of my colleagues, friend said to me, you know, African Americans tend not to replace things. We just add stuff on. So, but what we do also is pretend that the things that we were praying for back then that have become a part of our reality now doesn't replace what we were doing back then, because we didn't have what is a part of our reality now, like going to the hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that back then, so all we had was prayer. And now, we come to church and people, doing all kinds of stuff that has no medical and healing effect, other than the emotional part of it to some degree. And people, that has some value. But if you have cancer, you can feel good at some point during your cancer, but you're not going to get healed from cancer because somebody put you in a circle and prayed for you. And people may get offended by that, but it's a fact. Now there is the part where people are African Americans are suspicious of this vaccine. I was on, and I will send you guys to this if you want to see it. It's Omega Uplift Series number 8. I'm a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Epsilon Iota chapter. We did this uplift service a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the vaccine. We had 3 doctors on there and me. And I was there to bring in information about why the African American community is suspicious. We all know about, Tuskegee. Some of us know about Henrietta Lacks, but they are contemporary realities. And I found all kinds of stuff. I found things from the American Medical Association that talks about racism in the medical field. I found things from Harvard. I found an article from a sister who is a professor at University of Penn and an emergency medical room doctor who wrote an article saying why I was hesitant to take the vaccine and what changed my mind. But one of the most important lines or sentences in that article was, we need to respect the hesitancy and not just ignore it or act like it's not interesting, important. 2 things, last thing. I was on my way to church during this time because we're still doing our soup kitchen on Sunday.
Yes.
And I heard Fauci, who has done, an excellent job, even under difficult situations, with a occupant of the White House who had no idea what he was doing or what he was talking about. So he did a very good job in that. But he said something that was very inappropriate on MSNBC that Sunday. And it was, my African American brothers and sisters need to get over their resistance and take the vaccine. He was so out of his lane saying something like that, because you're not respecting why we have been where we are. Now, what you will find on the series, and this is why I sent it to you, I brought this information together. There were 3 doctors there. Gary Desir, his wife, I can't remember his first name. Her first name was Deborah.
Deborah. Mm-hmm.
And Tomiko MacArthur Jackson. Mm-hmm. As I presented the information, they were very empathetic, they were very understanding, and they were offering ways in which people who have hesitancy can help reduce them by the various methods that they talked about. So I would recommend you go watch that. It's on YouTube, Omega Uplift Series number 8.
Excellent. I'll post this. I'll post it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's very necessary that we do that. The last thing is that this particular pandemic and this particular vaccine, the necessity of taking this vaccine for many people, should speak to the American medical community that this is a time for you to significantly and seriously address racism within the medical community.
That's right.
Because that racism that is no longer just affecting African Americans. If African Americans, based on racism, historical racism, decide not to take this vaccine, it's going to affect the entire country.
That's right.
And if for nothing else, because there are often times when people who are in privileged positions don't want to talk about certain things that disadvantage people until those things began to disadvantage them. Mm-hmm. So if for no other reason, that racism, the historical racism, is now disadvantaging you, and they need to deal with that.
Excellent. Let me bring, and I really appreciate those remarks. I'm going to try to weave back into them a little bit as well. I want to bring in Bernard Macklin. Bernard is a Fight the Flu New Haven coordinator. And again, I don't think we can have enough shows, enough using media platforms, enough commercials, calling, just being in touch with people, communing with people to emphasize this crisis that we're in and what we can do to all collectively get out of it. But Bernard, what's been some of your experience as you see people express some hesitancy, some of their comments, and then to fast forward to more of a solution base, and I want Bishop Lawson and Reverend Samuel Rossley to kind of share in as well about, and Reverend Lee kind of alluded to the healthy steps, the awareness that we can build. But what are some of your reflections and perspectives on how we kind of I would say,
first of all, I just want to thank Reverend Ross Lee for what he just said, and Reverend Bishop Lawson for what he commented on. And these are a lot of the things that I face all the time in the community. And this is why I think calls like this is so important, because what I've learned is the strength of the pastor with his practitioners, and being able to convey to them, as well as he's been showing empathy and being empathetic to his congregations and your congregations, to help them to understand the importance of the right now. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have fears, and fear is going to be part of our life until we leave this earth. It's just a matter of how we deal with it from a religious perspective. As a Christian man, I understand that God holds my protection in his hands, but it doesn't mean that I don't have fears or concerns that come about. And I think our people is in that particular place as it's in reference to this pandemic, because so much has happened. Even before I was a zygote in my mother's belly, things were already in place and happening to our communities before I even came in the world. And I'm 54 years of age. So it's like during my 54 years, I've seen so many things that is still prevalent today. The hatred that people have, that I feel people have towards Black and brown people. That means I'm including Hispanics in this statement. Towards Black and brown people is deep, but it also causes us, and what I found out, it causes us to form some levels of racism within ourselves based on the racism we've gone through. And it just keeps that hatred compiled. We were on the call not too long ago, I think about a week or so, a week and a half ago, I think, Tom. I asked the question of the group that was on the call: have you dealt with your own individual levels of racism or thoughts of racism in your own heart? And a lot of them have not. They work with us, but they don't know us. And this is that they join all these different groups just to be in a group. And I'm just not that way. If you want to be in a group, help me to understand how we can defeat this racism medically, so we can begin to really help our people get through this particular process and not be so afraid when situations like this happen, like the vaccine, being vaccinated. And that's the problems that I run into. We have such a deep hatred, or a deep, what's the word I'm looking for? Fear that this is a scam, or people is out to get us. This is just another way of getting us to take something that's going to cause harm to us, like all these other things have caused harm to us. And so in my own experience, I'm trying to get our people away from, and I don't know, and I believe I'm going to watch your series, Pastor Ross Lee, because I want to understand, how do I effectively get our people to the point where they would take the vaccine to protect themselves from this pandemic. It's right here, it's right now. People are still dying every day. I think just the other day, 3,000 more people have passed away from this virus. And I'm really concerned that how do I get, and how can I help to get our people past? And I'm thinking one thing that I didn't think about until we had this call a couple of weeks ago is bringing in the church, because pastors, you have such a strong influence over your practitioners. And if you don't believe in it and don't feel comfortable with presenting it to the people that serve under you, it's still going to make it a lot more difficult. Let's pursue this in a way where we can get our pastors to say, hey, I took the vaccine. I'm still here, healthy, and I'm okay. It's okay to do it. And I think that's the step that I'm glad that we have this call today, so I can say to you, this is one of the reasons I'm glad Tom came to me, Pastor Ross Lee, to get you on the call. I missed you the last time. Please forgive me for that. And I think I might have missed a few other people on the call, but I'm glad you're on the call today. So we can just convey to you the importance. How can we, and myself, get you all to kind of help us to push the importance of getting our people vaccinated? That is for the flu. That is for COVID as well, because these are two very dangerous respiratory viruses that are attacking the Black and brown people in our communities.
Definitely. But Bishop Lawson and Reverend Lawson, perhaps elaborate a little bit more. And I don't, so because we're radio and live, and people sometimes their life is so chaotic, might not be able to listen, may not have joined us at the top of the hour. So even if, in response to what Bernard has mentioned, if you want to reiterate or clarify or elaborate on what you've said already, that's fine. But how do you respond to Bernard, and how do you respond to our audience about how we can be more deeply involved in our collective responsibilities?
I think it's we can't tell people, we're not dictators in our church. We're truly leaders. And I respect that. I respect what you said. And I understand that. I wish I could get people in my church to do everything. I wish I could get my wife to do everything I want her to do. Tom, don't say anything to her about that.
I know your wife, so watch out now. I know your wife. And you spoke a truthful statement right there. You spoke a truthful statement.
But I think we are leaders. Leaders should be examples. I think that's one problem I had with our former administration down in Washington, D.C., is that what we say means something, what we say matters. And we have to understand that we don't give voice to everything, but we do talk about everything. And we have a responsibility, I think, to show our people we lead by example, and we also lead by words. I think that I took the shot. I had my apprehensions, I had my thoughts about it, even though I work in the medical setting. But as I said the last time I think we were on, is that we can rush to remedy COVID, the virus. We still have not worked on HIV/AIDS. That still is a pandemic also. And we come up with a cure, with a vaccine for COVID, but we still don't have a vaccine for HIV. And it's been 35 years almost since that has been introduced in our community. We talk about trust. We talk about how we can soothe the tension between the medical community and the church. When it comes to COVID, I think it's a little bit different. I think it's because it happened to all the right people. The right people are getting the virus, so of course they are concerned about it. So they rush to find a cure or a vaccine. But to what you were saying, I think I have to lead by example. I trust science. I think that I can recommend it. We need to do something. We need to do our part to remedy this pandemic in our communities. It's going to wipe out Black people and Black and brown people. We have to give voice to it. We have to advocate doing our parts to remedy it. That's my stance on what I'm going to do. I've had the vaccine, and I'm going to go on to get it.
Reverend Ross Lee, just before I come to you, just want to mention that in 2 weeks, I'm going to have a chance to chat on a Friday with 4 guys relatively known here in the New Haven area that are not necessarily just COVID survivors, but COVID thrivers and folks that have gone through that stress, medical stress situation. 2 of the guys have actually were in the ICU unit, just to talk about their experiences, because there are even people from a long-term care standpoint, to use that phrase, that we don't even know some of the potential lingering negative effects of people that have been infected to whatever degree. But Reverend Ross Lee, maybe if you would like to comment on what Bishop Lawson has mentioned or what Bernard has mentioned.
So I often say, as it relates to my education, beyond high school and college, but my education in college, my grades in the English department and philosophy department got me into divinity school. It was grace and mercy from the math and science department that got me out of Morehouse. So I'm not a scientist. I try very hard to recognize and to realize. Sometimes it's not that difficult because it's just automatically know when I am out of my wheelhouse. Okay, and I try to know what I don't know, or I try to know that I don't know when I don't know. In terms of my congregation, I have invited them to various pieces of information. I gave them the information about the Omega Uplift series, and direct them towards things. This is not my wheelhouse. So I don't tell people to take the virus. I don't tell them not to take the virus. I keep saying virus. I've been saying that ever since COVID started. I've been saying virus. I don't tell them to take the vaccine. I don't tell them not to take the vaccine, and I don't tell them whether I'm taking the vaccine or not. I operate with extreme caution around this situation, which is why we're not in-person worship services. Certain things about our building that doesn't even allow us to bring in the few people that are allowed. But I'm not giving advice to this. What I will do is allow other persons who are competent in the field to give information out. I don't think my job is to tell people what to do anyway. But quite frankly, even within my wheelhouse, I enter the pulpit each Sunday, or the way we're doing service now, as an advocate. That's what we are. We're advocates for the gospel that we preach. We're advocates for the Jesus that we preach about. We're advocates in our sermons. Whether you're convinced about what I'm saying comes down to you. As a matter of fact, I don't think that you are a Christian if you are made to be a Christian. It has to be voluntary. And so I take that perspective on everything, a lot of things, and particularly things, like I say, that are outside of my wheelhouse. So that has been my approach. I provide information, I give out information. I have people in the congregation who are in the field, but I don't see it as my responsibility or my authority, for that matter, to tell people to go take the vaccine. That's just where I come from.
Yeah. I'm not in disagreement with that. I think I presented myself the wrong way. I'm not in disagreement with that. But what I would still say, because of your influence, and what you said was key, is that you're not the scientist, but you provide them with the necessary tools to make up their own minds. I'm in total agreement with that. As a Christian man, it's my choice. But what I really meant was that what you said, to give them the tools so they have an opportunity to make the right decision on their own. Sometimes people are not giving the tools, even giving the tools to use that influence that you may have so they can make the right decision. That's when we present the word of God. We present it in a way where they can make the proper choice if they're going to believe it or not, in a way that makes sense to them by what they hear. It's the same thing with this pandemic. We offer the tools because of our influence over our practitioners, that they understand that they have a choice. But here you have a pool of information that you can utilize, and that's what happens in our community. People are not presenting the information, and they leave us to make the choice on our own. And leaving me when most of them are not college educated, and most of them never been to college, or have what we consider, I don't want to say that. I'll take that back. I better not say that because I might get in trouble. To help them to make a decision that's going to affect their lives in a way where they can be healthier. And so I agree with you, Pastor Ross Lee, on what you said. But in a way, what you've done is that you gave them the tools. And this is what I ask of all of us as clergy persons, to give our practitioners the tools that they can use to make a better choice that may save their life. And we had a pastor on the call just a couple of weeks ago, Pastor Williams, that actually passed away from COVID for maybe what did he say, about 6 minutes, Tom?
Yeah, briefly.
Or so, and half of his deacon board and a lot of his members also got it, and some of them passed away.
Right.
So that's why I say what I say, but I agree with you totally by the way you said it. I guess I presented it the wrong way, and I do apologize, but that's what I actually get the proper tools. Thank you.
Yeah, but to be sure, when I say I give information on both sides. Here is one of the mistakes I think churches make in general. I don't know if it's just pastors, but it's denomination, it's part of the tradition, that kind of stuff, is that too many preachers, pastors, or whatever are trying to think for people. And we need to engage them. This is why I always make this distinction between what happens in church on Sunday and what happens in Bible study on Wednesday. Churches on Sunday, we come to celebrate our faith. On Wednesday, we come to analyze and study it. And I don't think the two things are the same thing. I've seen people, have Bible class, in the pulpit, and they talk and they preach and they doing whatever, and the congregation's out saying, yeah. If you're not talking to me, if we're not engaged in a conversation, I'm not teaching, and you're not really learning. You're just being indoctrinated, and that's a different type of thing. So I think we need to normalize having our congregations think about things and think through things, as opposed to, I've said to Emmanuel, please don't leave here saying my pastor said. If you don't understand it, if you don't know it, if you haven't, really truly understand it to the depth that you need to tell somebody else about it, don't tell anybody about it until you understand it. But don't leave here saying my pastor said so and so and so and so. That does not make it legitimate.
Bishop Lawson?
I agree. My giving the information out there to people at my church, or to a woman that decides that she's not going to the doctor, she doesn't want to get into help for cancer. She's a member of my church, dedicated, and she refused to go because she's old school and she's been taught God's going to heal her, and to watch her die is hard, and to watch her not go and get help is hard. But that's all I'm saying is that I do practice, and as a person that is a leader, I think I ought to give the right information, especially, working in the medical field and being a preacher is sometimes, hard, because I see people dying unnecessarily. But I can't do anything about that. I can if I give them the information, but even giving them the information, they still choose not to take it. Or when a person they're dying, and there's nothing else medical science can do. But the daughter looks at me and says, "Do everything," and look at the doctor and say, "I want them to do everything." We're putting resources in a hopeless situation, but again, that's not my call. I think we need to really look at, as leaders, how we present, the medical understanding along with the religious understanding. But I also think that a lot of people in our community are dying unnecessarily, and then and they need the information to make the right decision on how they should carry out the medical choices of themselves and their family members, because this thing spills over. If it was about one person, it may be okay. But when you talk about a whole community, as we call it, the herd, being exposed, we're talking about something else. So that factor is also a part of this conversation. It's just not what I want. But I think we're here talking about the community and what is common and global for our community, how it's affecting our community. Then to me, that made me look at other aspects of this whole conversation.
Absolutely. And also, this is a global issue. We have about 10 minutes or so, and Harry will play the music, and that'll be our he'll be kicking us off for the next 12 noon show. But I want to kind of take a little bit of a sidebar, but perhaps not, and ask Bishop Lawson and Reverend Ross Lee, if you, again, we're in historically Black History Month, which was initially Negro History Week, and I've kind of reframed it to African Genesis Month, as well as Black to the Future. And I also have a Facebook page that I've been updating since 2018 with Black history information almost on a 2 or 3 times a week, every week of the month for the last 2 or 3 years. But talk to us a little bit about, and it's more of a philosophical question, of us having this discussion during Black History Month. What's the importance of having the connection, if you will, between Black History Month and us having this discussion right now?
I'll speak first. Just I'll be 68, 69 this year, and I don't think our community has really changed our culture in 69 years. Have I seen a real change? I came into ministry and went to college to change the world, and that was my ambition, and to bring a better knowledge of to our community and to our people. We still have we're living in 2 different worlds: white world, black world. We're living in our people from a cultural standpoint, point of view rather, need help. We're still behind the 8 ball. We're still talking about, the church is talking about homosexuals, and now the world got transgendered. How are we going to handle those kinds of people? We always behind in some way of talking. The church seem to be one step. The Bible says you can learn a lot from the unsaved people, from those that are not religious. From children of the light can learn a lot from the children of the darkness, and because they have information that we're sometimes afraid of. So during this month, I'm glad we recognize it, and I'm glad we recognize the achievement and contributions of Black people. We still got a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas. Even religious, Black Baptists, afraid of also Pentecostal. I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff that goes on deep from a culture standpoint. I'm going to put it out there. I mean, I have nothing to lose. It's out there. And with the trust factor, I think, is one of the biggest things. We got to learn to trust each other. And we're all in this together, all drinking from the same pond, the same water, living under the same sun, and whatever we can do to help the next person. I still think we need to do. I'm glad we recognize this month, but we just got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. That's my comment.
Reverend Ross Lee?
So I have a great deal of respect for Dr. Carter G. Woodson and what he did. And, I understand why Black History Month is in February. A lot of people, even I heard a famous basketball player, I'm not going to mention LeBron's name, but I heard a famous basketball player say, they gave us the shortest month they didn't give us the shortest month of the year. Carter G. Woodson chose the week in February because of Frederick Douglass and Lincoln, their birthdays, and then it expanded to the month of February. So I respect what he did. I respect why he did it. I know why he did it and how he did it. I do not limit the celebration of Black people to February, however. I think that's kind of anachronism as well. I have seen other people, they're coming along in this in a lot of ways. I've seen it on Facebook. It's like, listen, Black History Month starts January the 1st and ends December the 31st. Mm-hmm. I don't care what y'all say. So, that's real. But, there are a number of things that we need to do in our community. When people ask me, what's the thing that's missing? What's that thing that's missing in our community? And, there are a lot of stuff that people say, economics and, unity and political power. And I say critical thinking skills. Mm. Because all of the things that we say we need to do and we need to get together in, we have to be able to think about it critically in order to do it, including and especially, quite frankly, our religion. A there are too many of our Black churches. I remember Jesse Jackson said this a long time ago, so I'm going to use his phrase instead of mine. He said, "I've gone to so many churches that had pictures of Martin Luther King Jr. in the pastor's office and Pat Robertson in their pulpit." Mm. That is deadly problematic. So I'm going to say that part. The other thing is that I think we need to get away from the notion that uniformity and unity are the same thing. Uniformity is the death of unity. Uniformity is the death of unity, because we are, regardless of our skin color and our background and all that kind of stuff, we are people, and people are going to be diverse. People come to me all the time, you know, why, if there's only one God, why do we have so many churches? Because we are people. That's the most simple, but it's also true. It's simple. We are people. If you go and you take a serious look at the scriptures, they were fighting. It's right there in the Bible where the apostles and the writers, you know, have presented things in different ways because they have different perspectives and different understandings how they should present Jesus even. Human beings are going to be diverse. Quite frankly, I love me, but I do not love everybody being like me. I think this is a boring and uninteresting world if everybody was like me. So we are going to be different, but we can be unified in our differences. This particular conversation in this particular month, I think this conversation is necessary and good to have, as long as we're dealing with this issue and people need to understand and know about it. But as I just think our history, our culture, I mean, it's something that we celebrate all the time, right? And other people do too. I bought a T-shirt. I'm just roaring to wear when that said they love our rhythm, but not our, y'all know about it, right? Our rhythm, but not our blues, right? But they don't get is that our blues, you know, is the foundation of our rhythm, right? So they're trying to skim off the top. There's a lot of untapped potential in the Black community. And one of our main problems, and I'm just going to say this lastly, one of our main problems is that we are celebrating Black people based upon how close they get to white people.
Say a little bit more about that.
Well, if you are in a position where there's traditionally, you know, a bunch of white people, white power. You become the CEO of a white company. You become the president of a white organization. You get accepted into a predominantly white institution. That's celebrated. That's celebrated and recognized more. If I guarantee you right now, if a Black child comes and says, I got into Howard. Yay, that's good. I got into Harvard. Another one comes and say, I got into Harvard. All right, now I see you. You know, it's a different level of appreciation and respect. It's close to where white people are. It's close to what they've considered excellent. And, you know, we pointed out, a number of us pointed out on Facebook, we got Harris from Howard. We got Warnock from Morehouse. We got Stacey Abrams from Spelman. The year after I graduated from Morehouse, I was a recruiter. And the main thing that I had to deal with Black students, you know, looking at colleges, you know, Black colleges don't prepare you for the real world. Hello? We got a vice president. We got the first Black senator from a formerly red state. And we got a sister from Spelman who made it all happen. Along with a sister from FAMU, the mayor of Atlanta, who was very significant in a lot of what happened in Georgia, and was offered the assistant chairmanship of the DNC, which he turned down. And there was an article that there's like about 7 or so Black women in Georgia who worked with Abrams and worked on that whole project of turning, you know, Georgia blue. They stole an election from Stacey Abrams in Georgia. She should be the governor of Georgia right now. And she did a Harriet Tubman move on them. You stole Harriet Tubman's life. She took it back and came and stole the hostages off your plantation. You stole an election from Stacey Abrams, and she came and took a presidency from you, a Senate seat from you. That's what we need to be celebrating.
Amen to that. But Bernard's giving you a big clap. And Keisha Bottoms you were referencing.
And I see Sister Taylor on the line. She hasn't had a chance to say anything, Tom. We got Sister Taylor on the line. I want to just, she's smiling like I am.
All right, Sister Taylor, please go ahead. I didn't see you, so I apologize. And please weigh in.
That's okay. Hello, everyone. I've just been enjoying hearing what I'm, listening to what I'm hearing. It is so in line. And I totally agree with the fact that I think our churches, and I said this the last time, that our churches really need to have a better understanding of what, to be informed, basically, to be informed, and so that they can make an informed decision. And I will continue to stand on that. And my question really is, how do I make that happen for my set of people or my group of people? How do I make that happen so that they can be informed? This forum has been great for us as leaders, but we also have to consider how we're going to actually get it out to the people. So thank you for allowing me. And I really enjoyed what you had to say, Reverend Ross Lee. God bless you. I'm right in line with that. Thank you.
Bless you.
I'm in line with it because I am a graduate of Grambling State University, and I do agree with what you said, because I am a product of my environment, and I am just as successful as anyone else. God bless you on that, brother. Definitely. Yeah. I think we have our Moody. I don't know who our Moody is at the bottom.
Brother or Sister Moody, would you like to weigh in? We only see your last name, or if not.
I'm Robin Moody from Cornell Scott Hill Health Center.
How you doing?
Hi, Matt. And that's one of the things that we've been working on and trying to figure out how to get to the community and the churches, because we do feel that getting to the community is through the churches, but how to bring the information to everyone in the community so they can make an informed decision. So we're trying to work with the management teams and trying to put together a coalition with some of the churches and getting that information out.
This is a good start.
It's a good start. And actually once a month, I hope, through Bernard has really inspired me to look at once a month having a community discussion about our faith claims and our faith actions and our content actions on a monthly basis.
Can I say to Brother Macklin? I'm sorry.
No, please. We have about closing remarks from everybody. We have about 2 minutes.
Well, this is not about the conversation. I just want to say this. I was at Morehouse when Doug Williams played in the Super Bowl. I had followed Doug Williams because he was quarterback of Tampa Bay. That's my home state. And I was at Morehouse at that time. And we were in the dorm and we were watching the game. And he went down, early, and but every time he threw a pass and made a touchdown, we would actually run out of our rooms into the hallway and celebrate and then run back in. It's a time at Morehouse that I will never forget. Thank you, Grambling.
I know Doug very well. I know Doug very well because I was very close to Coach Robinson.
And I believe he's coaching the Grambling football
with Tampa Bay. He's moved into a new position.
Oh, he's moved to Tampa Bay now? Okay. Yeah. All right.
He coached for a little while at Morehouse.
Washington. With Washington.
And coached at Morehouse as well. Kind of last 30 seconds kind of comments from everybody as we conclude, and just want to kind of thank you deeply for being available and sharing. We're going to keep this going on a monthly basis.
And I hope that we can take this type of forum and do exactly what you said, Sister Moody, in helping us to come together, like Bishop Lawson had said, help us to come together as a community and not be so separate. I mean, yeah, your churches can do what they do, but when it comes to situations like this, we need to rebuild that unity with each other to kind of find an answer, whatever that answer would be. We need to find it to protect our people. That's kind of where
That's it. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. How did they say? Robin Keller, Bishop Lawson, Reverend Samuel Ross Lee, Bernard Macklin, Ms. Moody.
Understand what
Really
black
appreciate you. Let's stay healthy. Let's stay wise. Let's stay informed. Let's stay together.
security blanket for the stars. Understand what black is. It's not a color. It's the basis of all colors. It is not a complexion. It is a reflection of all complexions called human. And
this is Harry Rose, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven.
Truth. Song and dance and making you laugh are family members. Understand what black is. The breath you breathe, the sweat on your brow, the cheers and the tears balancing the world on your